just recently I've had to do some air travel, and to be honest, I love being in an aeroplane. The thrill of sitting in the seat and the aeroplane revving its engine right up to top speed and taking off and going up to something like 400 k's an hour before it lifts off into the air. I might be wrong with that speed. It might be a bit more, it might be a bit less. Doesn't really matter. But still just going really fast and then going up into the air. And then we were traveling at an altitude of roughly 10 kilometers, 10,000 meters, or if you're in America, we call it 6 miles high. We were up in the air, and all the buildings and the land below look so, well, the buildings and cars, they look so small. When you get high enough, you can't even see any cars. You can just see probably the largest of buildings. You don't see very small, you don't see houses much at all. Just the larger buildings, because you're so high up in the air, and you see how big this world really is. As I was just traveling from one state in Australia to another state, and traveling during the trip by car would probably take 2 or 3 days of straight driving, perhaps. In an aeroplane, it took just over 2 hours, not much more than that. And I think, technology, how far we have come since the Wright brothers first put the first aeroplane together and made history by doing the first flight, which was, I don't know how high, it wasn't very high, and it was could have been for 100 meters or something. It wasn't very long, but they managed to get fast enough to lift their little, very primitive aircraft off the ground. And today we got these aeroplanes. It's got autopilot, it's got GPS navigational systems, it's got all these safety systems. So much brains have gone in to our air travel, what we have up to this current day, and there's still a lot of room for improvement, and they are still studying and working on new ways to make air travel even safer than what it is right now. And I think it is pretty safe as we speak, but there's always room for improvement. And it made me think how in nature, I think of there's quite a variety of birds who, not long after they're hatched and mature enough, I forget what ages they are, but you Google it, you'll find out yourself. But birds, they're hatched, they probably haven't even seen their parents, I don't know, or maybe they have, but basically they fly by themselves from where they were hatched a couple of 1,000 kilometers to a new destination. They migrate from one place to another. Now, as far as I know, even the adult birds don't consult a map. They don't go into your local electronic store and buy a GPS to see where they have to go. It's just in them to know where they are and what direction of travel they need to get to their destination. And I believe that's only possible through one way that is possible, and that is through the wisdom of God. And how wise God is when He created the birds to migrate from one place to another. The wisdom God has passed on to us to do wise things. And I think sometimes if I myself, I'm trying to do something, I'm trying to work something out, I'm having a lot of trouble. For example, this recording device that I'm using there, my mobile phone, and it's doing something what I just cannot find out how to fix. Having a lot of problems with it, and if anything, if I'm trying to fix a problem, I'll probably make it worse than what it is. So I've stopped doing that, but I will either give it to my wife or my kids and say, here, this is what it's doing, can you fix it up? They say, oh, that's easy, all you do is press this and that and whatever else, and it's fixed. Yeah, I'm glad that they know what they're doing and I don't. Well, I'd like to know what I'm doing, but it's just not in me to fix these things up. So in those things, my wife and my kids are a lot wiser than me when it comes to technology. Now I could learn it all if I really put my mind to it and studied it and worked out how it all works. So yeah, I can become wiser just by doing that. But what I want to get across is all our wisdom, even the smartest person, whether they believe in God or not, their wisdom comes from God. And so I want to share a couple of verses here. And it says here in 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 18 and 19, it says, let no man deceive himself. If any man among you seemeth to be wise in this world, let him become a fool, that he may be wise. Look at this one here, verse 19. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. For it is written, he taketh the wise in their own craftiness. So when we think we are really smart, our wisdom is nothing compared to God's wisdom. He is the all-wise one. Again, he gives us our wisdom. And if you want to get wise, I'm going to show you this other verse here in the book of Proverbs. And it says here in Proverbs chapter 9 and verse 10. It says here, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. So if you want to become wise, fear God, reverence God, treat him with respect, love God, obey God, and you will get wisdom. That's what the Bible promises, that's what God promises. Okay, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And one more verse, I wasn't going to include it, but here in the book of James, and James chapter 1, I think it is, and verse 5, yeah, it says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. So if you ask God for wisdom, and you love him and serve him, God will give you all the wisdom you need. It says, I'll read it again. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask God, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not. I'm not sure what upbraideth not means. I have to look that up. But it says that God giveth to all men liberally. So God will give you wisdom unlimited. He will give you all the wisdom what you require, and probably even more, if you just love him and trust him and reverence him and obey him. And so if you want to be wise, follow God, accept Jesus as your Saviour, and it's one of the best things you can ever do. Believe me, you will never look back. Since I gave my heart to Jesus, I have never looked back, and I'd like the same for you.